Good morning, everyone. Solus Joe Survival here again with another video. So in today's video, I'm going to be addressing a question that is asked quite frequently of the freeze drying community in general, and that is, can a solar generator, a solar battery bank power a freeze dryer? So I've got the Harvest Right freeze dryer plugged into an EcoFlow 1300 watt solar generator. This solar generator does not have enough watt hours to be able to power this for any sort of length of time. However, I am capable of using it to be able to gauge how much wattage is being used. So without any further ado, let's jump into the functionality test and show you how much wattage is used by each individual function. You can all crunch the numbers to be able to see if your solar generator, solar battery bank that you currently have or maybe planning to get is capable of being able to power this. So go into the functions test here. We'll start off with the vacuum and we'll see how much wattage is used. All right, so we've got just the vacuum running right now, and that's pulling about an average, going off of this, 500 and we'll say about 500 watts average. Leaving the vacuum running, we will turn on the freezer. So with the freezer running and the vacuum pump going, the numbers are going all over the board right here. Let's let it stabilize here for a minute. It's under 1,000 watts. Generally speaking, when any sort of appliance starts up, it pulls a lot more wattage as it fires up, and then it starts to kind of stabilize. So we're jumping around the 800 watt average. We'll say 800 watts to be safe. Let's turn the freezer off, keep the vacuum running, and we will turn on the heater, which is going to pull the most wattage. Generally speaking, heating uses a ton of wattage. Let's wait a couple seconds here. We're at about 1,100 watts. Mm. 1,123. 27. Say 1120 to be safe for an average. All right. So shut this off. Let's go over some of these numbers here to wrap up this video. So again, it takes 800 watts to be able to do the freezing cycle with the vacuum pump, and then it takes 1,120 watts with the heater with the vacuum pump. Now, a minimum cycle, generally on an average speaking, for a freeze dryer to be able to run is about 20 to 40 hours. So let's do some math based off of a minimum 20-hour freeze dry cycle and the watt hours that you would need to be able to do a freeze dry cycle. So let's say that it takes about 5 hours, which is just an estimate off the top of my head, to be able to do the freezing cycle with the vacuum pump. So it is 800 watts to be able to, again, run the freezer with the vacuum pump. We'll take 800 times that by the 5 hours required, and that comes to 4,000 watt hours required of a solar generator, solar backup battery bank to be able to do just that cycle alone. Now for the final 15 hours with the heater, with the vacuum pump, we'll take that 15 and times that by 1,120 watts, and that comes to 16,800 watt hours required of a battery backup, a solar generator to be able to run. Now let's add up those two cycles between the freezer with the vacuum pump and the heater with the vacuum pump, and that comes to a whopping 17,600 watt hours required of a solar generator needed to be able to do, again, a minimum of 20 hours. Now, to kind of put that into perspective, I have a Delta Pro, which is 3,600 watt hours with a single battery backup, and that is another 3,600 watt hours. You add those two together, that's obviously 7,200 watt hours together, and I don't even come close to half of being able to run a freeze-dry cycle. In a minimum, I would need 3,600 watt hours. I would need 5 units at 3,600 watt hours to be able to do a minimum 20-hour freeze-dry cycle. To be safe, you probably want to have 6 between 2 backup batteries for a Delta Pro, plus 1 main unit to be able to connect the 2 batteries, plus an additional Delta Pro and another 2 batteries to be able to run a whole minimum 20-hour freeze-dry cycle. So the question is answered, can you do it? Yes. Do you want to do it? Probably not. Generally speaking, most of the newer solar generators that are out on the market have a better life cycle than the original lithium ion that had come out. I think it's now lithium ion phosphate, and that gives them about 3,600 recharge cycles before they go from their 100% capacity down to, I believe, 80% of their original capacity. So if you've got a solar setup, a really beefy setup, and I mean a super beefy backup setup, you could get away with freeze drying in the apocalypse if there is a grid down situation. However, I recommend probably getting a dehydrator or a smoker. Get some propane, because propane never expires. Get some charcoal. That is going to be a much better, a much more efficient way of being able to preserve food in a grid down situation than wasting your precious solar generators to be able to run a freeze dryer. I recommend doing all of your freeze drying now while you still can, instead of waiting for a theoretical grid down situation. So anyways, I hope that that was able to address these questions when it comes to regards to this. Anyways, Solus Joe Survival out. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you enjoy this sort of content, please also share.